that feeling, right? When you're putting in all the work at the gym, learning a new skill, trying to get ahead in your career, but you're seeing absolutely nothing to show for it. You show up, you do the thing, but the needle just doesn't move. It is one of the most maddening feelings in the world. So let's get into why this happens and why it might actually be the best sign that you're right on the verge of a huge breakthrough. And isn't that just the perfect picture of it? I mean, you feel like you're doing everything right, but progress is so painfully slow, it feels like some kind of cosmic joke. You're just sitting there, waiting, wondering if anything is happening at all. But what if that slow, boring, agonizing wait is actually the most critical part of the whole process? And this leads us right to the core idea we're going to unpack today, this really fascinating and universal pattern called the growth paradox. It pretty much governs everything, from learning a language to building a company, and once you understand it, it'll completely change how you look at your own journey. So here's the deal. Growth has this dual nature. It's defined by two experiences that are complete opposites. First, a long, super frustrating period where it looks like you're stuck, followed by a sudden, almost violent leap forward. And the key is, these two phases are totally connected. You just can't have one without the other. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to completely tear down this myth of the overnight success. I mean, we love the idea of a quick training montage, but in reality, it's mostly just the long, boring middle. And this period, it actually has a name. It's where most people get discouraged and just give up. It's called the plateau of latent potential. Now, latent just means hidden or concealed. So the work you're putting in is having an effect, but all the results are accumulating under the surface where you can't see them yet. It's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're building up energy for a massive change. Let me show you exactly what I mean with a really simple science example. Okay, so imagine an ice cube sitting on a table. The room is at 27 degrees Fahrenheit. You start to apply heat, right? You're raising the temperature. But if you look at it, absolutely nothing changes. It is still just a solid block of ice. You keep putting in that energy. The temperature climbs 28, 29, 30, even 31 degrees. You're doing the work, you're applying the heat, but the result looks exactly the same. A useless ice cube. And this right here, this is the moment most of us quit. We think all our effort is being wasted. But then you hit 32 degrees Fahrenheit, the tipping point. And what happens? A total phase shift. The ice doesn't just start to melt a little bit, it transforms. Now, the big insight here is that the 1 degree jump from 31 to 32 wasn't some kind of miracle. The miracle was all that invisible energy you stored from 27 all the way up to 31. Now look, this isn't just a nice metaphor. This pattern is actually a fundamental law of how systems grow, and it's backed up by decades of science. We can see this pattern repeating itself pretty much everywhere, in all kinds of different fields. It's called the S-curve. And whether you're looking at how a new technology gets adopted, or the growth of a bacteria colony, or even your own process of learning something new, it almost always follows this exact shape. A long, flat beginning, that's your plateau of latent potential, and then whoosh, a sudden vertical spike. It's like the universe's natural rhythm of progress. And what's really wild is how this shows that learning can happen completely invisibly. Check out this famous study from 1930. On the left, you've got the rewarded group of rats. They got a little cheese every day, and they showed slow, steady improvement. Okay, makes sense. But look at the latent group on the right. For 10 days straight, they got nothing. They just wandered around the maze, and it looked like they weren't learning a thing. But on day 11, when a reward was finally introduced, bam! Their performance just skyrocketed. They became maze masters overnight. Why? Because they've been building a mental map the whole time. The learning was latent, just waiting for a reason to show up. And you see this pattern all through history. Penicillin was discovered by accident in 1928, but for over a decade, it was just a weird little scientific curiosity. It took years and years of slow, grinding, totally unglamorous research. But when it was finally perfected and mass-produced for World War II, it changed medicine almost instantly. It saved millions of lives. That's 10 years on the plateau and then a vertical spike that changed the world. So, if we know this pattern is basically inevitable, how on earth are we supposed to survive that long, slow period without losing our minds? Well, this requires a pretty radical shift in your mindset, away from the typical advice we always seem to get. The common advice is just keep grinding, right? Focus on output, push harder, hustle. But a much more useful philosophy might be to keep rotting. Yeah, I know it sounds strange, but think of it like compost. It's the whole process of breaking down old, useless stuff to create really rich soil for something new and amazing to grow. So, with this kind of mindset, that boring middle isn't stagnation at all. It's decomposition. You are actively breaking down your bad habits, your ego, the old assumptions that are holding you back. Your failures, they're not waste. They're the essential raw material that's going to fertilize your future success. You start measuring progress not by the fruit you're producing, but by all the old junk you're successfully turning into soil. But what happens when the growth finally comes? Because, and this is a huge part of the paradox, the fast part can be just as dangerous as the slow part, and you have to be ready for it. Psychologically, our brains are literally wired for stability. There's a term for it, homeostatic resistance. So when you suddenly achieve the success you've been working for years, it can feel so destabilizing that your brain's first reaction is to try and sabotage it just to get back to what feels familiar. It's almost like a form of positive trauma. So here's the crucial takeaway. That long, slow plateau, it isn't just for building up energy. It's for building deep roots. Things like integrity, discipline, self-awareness that are going to anchor you when that sudden storm of success finally hits. Without that foundation, the wind of your own growth can actually be strong enough to snap you in half. Ultimately, you just have to accept that, well, growth is a jerk. It doesn't give you little notifications or neat progress bars to tell you how you're doing. It demands faith. It asks you to keep applying heat to that block of ice, even when it looks like nothing is happening, and just trust that the energy is building up where you can't see it. So if you feel stuck right now, if you feel like you're putting in all this work for nothing, just ask yourself this. What if you're not failing? What if you're just at 31 degrees? That phase shift is closer than you think. The only question is, are you willing to keep the heat on for just a little bit longer?